Good afternoon to most of you. We've just passed 12 o'clock on the eastern seaboard. Good morning to those of you in South Australia, Western Australia, and other places. My name's James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and it's great to have you joining me for today's workshop, one of our most popular workshops, how to create an amazing resume. So today, what we want to actually help you do is, in that title, create an amazing resume. Because you don't want just to have a plain resume. You don't want to have a boring resume. You don't want to have a resume that is the same as everybody else's, because the recruitment process is really competitive and you need your resume to be awesome. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to go through, first of all, some of the basics around how to create a resume. And then I'm going to show you some tips and tricks and my vision on what I think a resume should be and how you can make yours stand out in a really competitive marketplace. Now, you might have seen in the media lately a lot of talk around the fact that it is actually hard to find staff. And a lot of companies are saying, hey, we're really struggling. Since Victoria and New South Wales has lowered its restrictions, since the other states have started opening up, we are struggling to recruit our own staff. When you're looking for work, that can be a really confusing message, because you might be thinking, well, why can't I still get a job even if organizations are saying it's hard to find staff? And the reason for that is because whether unemployment is low or unemployment is high, it is still a very competitive process when you're looking for work. You need to be doing everything that you can do within your power to really stand out. So whether we've got 500 applicants for a job or only 40, you're still only one of those, and you're still competing against the rest of the pack. And if your resume isn't amazing, then you're not going to get through to the phone interview. Phone interview leads to face-to-face interview. Face-to-face interview leads to job offer and a new job. So the resume is the start of the process for many people. It's where we often focus our attention, but it is also where we feel a bit confused, because there's a lot of questions about resumes. If you are making a chocolate cake, if you jump onto Google and you type in chocolate cake recipe, you will get, 10,000 hits, 10,000 recipes. And guess what? They all make a chocolate cake. Resumes are a bit the same. What I like in a resume is different to the next recruiter. What the next recruiter likes in a resume is different to the following recruiter. They are all formats of resumes that we like. So in the advice I'm going to give you today, it's important to keep that in mind. What I'm going to be showing you today, what I'm going to be talking about, it is my opinion as the candidate coach and as a director at a leading award-winning recruitment agency. But my advice might be different to other people that you've heard. At the end of the day, it's your resume. So what you put on paper is completely up to you. I'm just here to challenge your thoughts and to help you improve that. Alrighty, we are coming to you live today via our YouTube channel, via our Facebook page, via LinkedIn, via our many partner sites. So thank you for joining us, particularly if you're on our partner sites. What that means is sometimes, just occasionally, we have a few gremlins. So if I drop off the line at all today, please wait and I will rejoin the workshop. Occasionally that happens, but only once or twice a year. Ask lots of questions during the presentation, particularly if you're watching on one of our sites where we've had a lot of people saying good morning. I'm coming to you live. It is the 7th of December, just after 12 p.m. in Victoria. I'm coming to you live. Ask me any questions as we're going along today, and I will answer those live on air for you. Take lots of notes as we're going, but you can also watch a copy of today's workshop on our YouTube channel. So it normally uploads straight after the workshop, and you can go and watch it there. I mentioned a little bit about my background before. Well, who am I, your presenter, and why am I presenting to you today? As I said, my name's James Whitcomb. I'm a director at Smart Recruitment, and I've been in recruitment since 2005, just ticked over my 16th year. In that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews and 600 group assessments, and I've placed well over 1,000 people into jobs. I would say I've probably read 100,000 resumes. I would have read 100,000 resumes over my 15 years. I've seen some absolutely amazing resumes. I've seen some absolute stinkers as well, some terrible resumes. I've seen some people that have absolutely wonderful experience, that have great achievements, but have really bad resumes and therefore miss out on the opportunity. I've also seen people whose career, whose study might not be that great, but they've created a really impressive resume, and that actually helps them to leapfrog other candidates. So I'm coming to you from this background, having read over 100,000 resumes so far in my career and had done a lot of coaching with people in how to improve them. And we launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, in December 2019. All right, let's get stuck in. I'd like you to answer this question in the chat function. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling as you sit here today? You've been looking for work. Maybe some of you have just started the journey or are thinking about starting it. Maybe some of you have been looking for work for quite some time. How are you actually feeling at the moment? Why am I asking you this question? Well, I'll show you soon. There's a bit of a relevance to this question. You might be feeling really upbeat. You might be feeling, a little bit sad. We've got lots of happy faces coming through here, which is really good, because particularly when you're looking for work, it can be a tough time. And we'll share some resources with you at the end of today around how you can try to support your mental health. We've had someone come through looking a little bit frazzled there. Completely understandable. So I want to ask you a follow-up question though. What about your resume? How does your resume present you? Again, let's choose from this list of emojis. If you had to choose an emoji or an emoticon or whatever you call it, how would you describe your resume as presenting you? What is it showing the audience or the reader about you? Is it something from sort of the top left-hand corner, smiley? That's probably the main one we're looking for. Or in the middle here, another smiley face. Is it happy? Or is it sort of a little bit confused in the middle here? Is it just a bit sad? Is it a horror show? Is it a horror show here? How does your resume present you? And it's a really relevant question because your resume is you on paper. So how it presents you actually can come across quite loudly. Okay. We're talking recruitment, and I'm going to talk to you now about the importance of having a job-winning attitude and mindset. It is really important for you to have a great mindset and a job-winning attitude, having a positive attitude when you're looking for work. Why is this important? Well, I want to share a quote with you from Ryan Biggs, who's the head of talent and employment branding at the Australian Financial Complaints Authority. And Ryan says, I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over someone who has all of the skill, but a bad attitude. So having a job-winning attitude and having a good mindset is really, really important. When I meet a candidate, I can often tell what their mindset is like. I can tell what their attitude's like. I can tell what their energy levels is like. And if you've been looking for a job for quite some time, you might be feeling deflated. You might be feeling downtrodden. You might be feeling really angry about the fact that you can't land the job you want. I completely understand. You have the right to feel like that. However, when you're presenting yourself for a job, you need to present yourself as the very best version of yourself that you can. And that includes your resume. So I want you to be proud of your resume. I want you to be happy with your resume. I want your resume to really show you off, because that's really going to help you throughout the recruitment process. And so by the end of today, hopefully we've given you some tips on how you can do that. Now, if at any point today I look like I'm looking over here a little bit, that's because that's where my display screen is that I'm sharing with you today. Okay, as I said, so your resume and your cover letter. We're doing a cover letter session on Thursday. Come and join me then. It will show your attitude, your confidence, and your intent. I can see when someone's put a lot of effort into their resume. I can see when someone is really enthusiastic about a particular job and that they've tailored their resume and they've tailored their application for this particular role. It comes across on paper. You might be thinking, James, that's a bit of crazy talk. That sounds a little bit crazy that you can see my confidence and my intention on my resume. Well, I'll put it to you. If you went through and read 100 resumes a day, you can definitely tell the difference between the lazy resumes where they're just copying and pasting for every job and the great resumes where people have put in a lot of work. Okay, so I can ask you another question. And again, I want you to type your answer here into the comments box. How long do you think a recruiter spends reading your resume? You've probably spent hours. You might have spent days. You might have spent weeks on your resume. Some people's resume is just added to every time they start looking for work. And so it kind of evolves over time. It might have started in 2010 when you graduated. Then you've applied for 3 jobs since, and each time you kind of just extend it and put a little bit of extra detail about your most current role. But for most people, they spend a lot of time. They spend a lot of time on this document. So lots of guesses coming through. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, less than 1 minute. Read the top and the last of the resume, 3 minutes. All right, lots of really good guesses there. I'm going to reveal the answer for you. 7 seconds. Eye tracking study shows recruiters look at resume for 7 seconds. 7 seconds. This is not a great statistic, is it? As a recruiter who absolutely loves the recruitment industry and thinks it's a wonderful industry, this is not a great stat. It is not a stat that I'm proud of. You spent hours, days, weeks, months, years working on your resume. An eye tracking study shows that recruiters look at your resume for less than 7 seconds. However, we can complain about this and we can moan about this because it's not great, or we can learn from it. So let me read this article to you. I'm only going to read the second and the third dot point here because this is where we can learn our lessons. So dot point number 2. Resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured simple layouts. So we need a simple layout with clear sections and heading titles. Resumes organized by E or F pattern reading tendencies also did well. So the E or F pattern is, imagine your piece of paper with a big capital E or a big capital F on the page. So a lot of things coming off the left-hand side and going across the page, especially when they utilize bold titles or bulleted accomplishments. Resumes did not fare well when hindered by cluttered layouts, a lack of white space. So we need white space on the page. Multiple columns and long sentences. A lack of section or job headers also turned recruiters off, as did text that didn't flow or draw the eye down the page. So in summary, what do we need to do well? Simple layouts with white space, headings, bold points, bulleted accomplishments. Don't make it cluttered. Make it easy to read, have white space, and have the text flow down the page. Now, I don't want you to think that this suddenly means that recruiters will only look at your resume for 7 seconds. What the article goes on to say is that it's at the 7-second mark the recruiter decides whether to keep on reading or not. If they decide not to, obviously they stop reading it, but you've got to impress them within that first 7 seconds. So there's a couple of key takeaways here. What I would like you to do is get out a phone, get out a stopwatch, and get out your resume. I want you to put your resume face down, press start, and then pick up your resume. And I want you to look at your resume for 7 seconds, press stop, and put your resume down. In those 7 seconds, what information stood out to you on your resume? This is why it's important to use bold headings, bulleted accomplishments, make it easy to read. If it also, to me, means that page 1 is absolutely vital. Page 1, I don't mind whether you have a 2, 3, 4 page resume or only 1 page. 1 to 4 is fine. You choose. But if your first page is not good, it doesn't matter what the rest of the resume is like. So go and do that experiment. Time yourself for 7 seconds, or ask somebody else, time them for 7 seconds, and say to them, what did you get off my resume? I guarantee you it was the headings, it was the bold titles, and we need to make it easy to read. All right, effective resume writing. Let's get stuck in. What is your resume? Well, it's a factual account of your employment and study history, but it also needs to highlight your skills and abilities and sell you. So let's look at the first part there. We've got facts. We've got our employment history. We've got company names. We've got job titles. We've got dates. We've got locations. We've got names and events. We've got universities and years. So it's normally in a chronological order, but it's got facts there. But it also, and this is the second part here, this is what not a lot of people do well. It also needs to highlight your skills and abilities, and it needs to sell you. Sell you. I'm going to jump in here because we've had a question come through in the chat function. Should I be tailoring my resume to the specific job that I'm applying for? Should I be tailoring my resume for the job that I'm applying for? The answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. You should never submit the same resume twice. Now, you might think that's really harsh of me to say. You might be watching this workshop saying, James, I'm just applying for customer service jobs, only customer service jobs. Why would I have to change my resume? Well, let me ask you this question. Is every job 100% the same? Is every job ad asking for 100% of the same thing? And is every company 100% the same? The answer is no, no, and no. So you need to tailor your resume for every single job. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to rewrite the whole thing, but you just might need to tweak one or two things. Tweak one or two things that your resume specifically addresses that advertisement at the time. I hope this has answered your question. So your resume, back to the slides, needs to sell you. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question. Type into the comments box now. Do you think your resume sells you? Do you think your resume sells you? When I sold a house a couple of years ago, we spruced it up, did the garden, bought some new furniture, had professional cleaning in, did the windows. The photographer came along and took these photos. And when I looked at the property online, I thought, wow, look how good my house looks. When I walked into the same room, I was like, kind of doesn't look that good. They put the camera in just the right angle. They got the light on just the right way. They weren't fake photos, but the photographer knew how to sell the room, sell the house, sell the yard. I want you to think of your resume like that. I want you to think of your resume as really there to promote you. It is an advertisement. It needs to sell you. It needs to highlight you. Some of the comments we've got coming through, my resume is very bad, not mine, should sell, partly. We need to change our mindset here. I want you to think your resume is an advertisement. It is an advertisement for you. It is kind of needs to say, buy me. Buy me. You need to buy me. Don't buy the other candidates. Come and buy me. And this is why it's on my resume. You want someone to buy you, and no one's going to buy you unless you sell yourself. So we need to be out there selling ourselves. So my number one resume rule, it is very clear. Your resume needs to sell you. SELL, sell you. It's you on paper. It's an advertisement for you, and it needs to promote you. It needs to sell you. So let's stop thinking about our resume as dry. As I said to you before, your resume needs to be changed for every single job. You don't go and write your resume and say, I'm finished writing my resume. Now I can go out and apply for 5 jobs. And that's what a lot of people do. It's a big mistake. They think, looking for work, I'll spend today writing my resume. I'll spend the next week then just sending it out. No, your resume is not dry, and it's not a boring academic document. We need to make it start coming alive. We want our resumes to start coming alive, and we want them to highlight how good we are. Think of it as a fluid document. From the question before, we need to be tailoring it for each application. All right, I've just had some comments come through, but they're in a different language, so I'm sorry I can't quite read those from our Facebook page. All right, we're going to go through 4 steps now. We're going to go through the 4 steps that I think you need to follow to create an awesome resume. 4 steps. The first step is a pretty important one because we can't actually have a great resume unless we get the basics right first. So let's look at basic resume. Let's look at basic resume structure. It's like making a cake. If we put great icing on, but the cake underneath is rubbish, well, then we're going to get found out. If you put a great cake in and then have great icing on the top, it all holds together. It looks great and it tastes great. So basic resume structure, I'm going to show you a couple of images here. So this is a really good layout for a resume. So what you'll notice here straight away is a couple of things, hopefully. And I'd like to point back to the article we read. On this page, you'll see bold headings. You'll see different sections using the soft orange line. You'll see we're using the E or F pattern. So a lot of things come from that. We've actually got a bold line down the side, and we can read from that point off. And we've got quite a lot of white space, so it's not too heavy. So going from the top, a lot of people, this is how we can do it. And I'm going to show you several designs today. We've got our name, and then we've got a link to our LinkedIn profile. I would really encourage you to have a link to your LinkedIn profile on your resume. A lot of recruiters are going to want to see your LinkedIn profile, so I would really encourage you to make it easy for them. We've then got our other contact details. We've then got, as we'll see, we've got headings: professional summary, education, and employment history. Professional summary is normally a 1 paragraph, maybe 2 sentences long introduction. Some people call it introduction. Some people call it career overview. It kind of doesn't matter. There's several different options for your heading here. But this summary is almost like a mini cover letter, and this is where we need to start tailoring our application. So in your professional summary here, a lot of people waste this space. They write something really generic, like I'm a people-orientated person who loves hard work. You can write that, but I'd also encourage you to have a line that's really specific to the job you're applying for. Show straight away to the person looking at your resume that you've tailored your application for this particular job. Formal education. I really encourage people that if they have certainly tertiary qualifications, have it on the front page. If you've got a degree or an MBA, don't put it on the bottom of your resume. As we said before, I might look at your resume for 7 seconds. You might have an MBA or a PhD, and if it's listed on page 3, I don't even get to see it. Put your formal education on page 1. And then we've got employment history. So here we've got a company name. I've written here that you can give a brief 2 to 3 line introduction explaining what the organization does. That's up to you, particularly if you work for a company that a lot of people might not have heard of. That might really help. If your last role was at McDonald's in customer service, you probably don't need to give an explanation of what McDonald's does. But then in terms of layout, what I like to see is we list it, and I'll go through this further in a bit more detail, in 2 sections for our employment history. We have primary responsibilities and primary duties and responsibilities, and we list 6 things. And again, this is why we need to tailor our resume, because we can only list 6 things. We cannot list everything. And then achievements, 3 or 4 achievements we want to list. So this is a really good way to lay out your resume. This template you can go and download right now from your candidate coaching platform. All right, here's another template. Some similarities, but some differences. So the first thing you'll notice here is we've got this separate section down the left-hand side, and that's where we're going to put the name and our contact details. Name and contact details on the top left-hand corner here. Then again, we've used the headings. We've got a little bit of white space, maybe a little bit less here, but we still have some white space. And there's some lines across the page here, which again, allow the reader to instantly know where the next category starts, as well as bold headings. So introduction or career summary, career overview, we've got that section there. We then have education, and then again, we have employment history. We've got company name, a little introduction, 6 dot points, and key achievements. The main difference with this resume, apart from the format, is on the left-hand column there, you'll see we've got some skills and attributes. Some roles, some industries, particularly IT, it's really good to have your skills and attributes, or maybe the software programs that you're competent in listed here. This is one way you can list them down the left-hand side, or you can list them as a section on the front page. Again, this template is available for you to download from your candidate coaching platform. All right, so that's basic resume structure. I know we've gone through that quite quick, but you can go and download these templates. You can watch this again on our YouTube channel. Okay, so second step. Now that we've got our basic resume structure right, we're going to sell ourselves. Sell, sell, sell. So there are many ways we can sell ourselves, but one of the most important things we can do is we can sell ourselves through really highlighting our achievements, highlighting our skills and responsibilities, and highlighting our achievements. So how do we actually sell our experience? So what you'll see on the screen here now is a before. This is a candidate that I met a couple of years ago. Well, I met her in 2016, and this is how she described her job at the time. She was a sales representative, and I've changed the company name to ABC. She was a salesperson for 3 years, and her job was to sell goods, and she traveled to meet customers and keep them happy. So the very basic description she's got on her resume there. The main reason she got through to a phone interview stage and then a face-to-face interview stage was her tenure. 3 years in a sales representative role is really good because sales roles are hard. You need to be really resilient. There is lots of rejection. And so I was really impressed with that as well. Okay, now, when I met with this candidate, though, I was blown away. When she talked about what she'd done in the past, I then thought, your resume is massively, massively, massively underselling yourself, which was surprising, right? Because she is a salesperson. She was a very good salesperson. But what I've noticed is that good salespeople don't necessarily have good resumes. So I worked with her, and this is her resume afterwards. So you've got the before there. This is the afterwards. Now, a couple of things you'll notice straight away. We've used bold headings and we've got 2 sections here. I've actually listed 9 primary responsibilities here. I actually, and this was 5 years ago, I actually think now maybe 9's too many in 2021. I probably prefer 6 to 8. But we've got 2 sections, primary responsibilities. I use the word primary because don't just call it responsibilities because you can't list everything. The average job has 60 to 80 responsibilities. You want to say primary responsibilities here, and in particular, you want to list the responsibilities that are most relevant to the job you're actually applying for. Most likely the job that you're applying for. So if your job says we're looking for people with A, B, and C, make sure in your primary responsibilities you list when you did A, B, and C if you've done them. Don't leave it off your resume. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all the dot points. You can see them there, but it has gone into great detail. I really like the use of numbers. So the third last dot point here under responsibilities, attend at least 3 new business appointments a day. When you see a number on the page, it allows you to quantify it. If the candidate had to put attend new business appointments, I don't know whether she does 1 a day, 1 a week, 1 a month, 1 a year, but she's done 3 a day, which then allows me to say, okay, that's 15 a week, that's 60 a month, that's a lot of appointments a year, that's well over 600 a year. So use some figures to quantify it wherever you can. But it's the achievements component that I think is the most important. And this is where we can really sell ourselves. So as a recruiter, this is really important. So I'm going to turn off that screen share there. As a recruiter, a lot of the time, I actually know what you did in your job. I might not know all of the details, but if you've worked as an accountant, if you've worked in fast food hospitality, if you've worked in administration, if you've worked in sales, I normally already have a pretty good idea of what you did in the job. But what I'm actually looking for is how well you did in it. So a lot of candidates take up a lot of space saying what they did, and they never actually mention how well they did it. So you need to show here how well did you do your job? That is what the achievements show. This person was salesperson of the year in 2014, exceeding her sales budget by 21%. Now, for being salesperson of the year in 2014, this person was given a brand new car. That is how well she did. This was a large company. She was given a car for being salesperson of the year. Unbelievable achievement. It was a large sales team. She's the only person I've met in my 15, 16 years of recruitment who was given a car for being such a good employee. On her previous resume, though, she didn't have any achievements. When I spoke to her, she told me, I'm like, we got to get this on your resume. So we did, salesperson of the year. You'll see her other achievements here. This is how you sell yourself on your resume. Now, you might be thinking, James, I haven't been salesperson of the year. I ain't won no car. I know that. I haven't won a car either. So list here things that you did well. Any recognitions, list them. Let me ask you a question. When you started in the job versus where you are now, have your responsibilities changed? Have you been given extra responsibilities? If you are working in retail, maybe you were asked to cash up the till. Maybe you've been given the keys and entrusted with opening and closing the store. Maybe you've been asked to help train and onboard new staff. These are achievements. We can list those. So have a think and get some achievements here on your resume. Make sure you sell yourself. I'm going to jump into the comments box now. So someone's written, I'm a career change. Do I need to list all jobs not regarding the current role? Great question. Great question. Looking for a career change is a really tough one because you need to explain very clearly in the top part of your resume. So that summary or introduction, you need to say you are looking for a career change and say why. The reason being is, as a recruiter, it's very easy for you as a candidate to apply to any job you want, regardless of whether you're suitable or not. And so we get a lot of resumes from candidates who apply for 50 jobs a day, and they're just waiting to see who calls back. So if you're specifically looking for a career change, you need to state it on your resume, and you need to try to draw some similarities or draw a bridge between your current job and what you can still bring to the new job that's going to be relevant. You also need to be really prepared that if you're going for a career change, you need to be realistic about your salary because it's likely that it will need to go down before it comes back up again. All right. So third step, we've got our resume. We've put some, we've laid it out well. We have sold ourselves. We now need to make it visually appealing. So again, put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter. A lot of recruiters will read 50 to 100 resumes every day. That's up to 500 resumes a week. Most resumes are black words on white paper. And even with a really good layout and design, they're pretty boring. So what I'm going to show you now is a free tool called Canva. Some of you will be familiar with Canva. You'll see it up the top there, canva.com. What I'm going to show you, you can do for free. I use the paid version, but you can do this for free. You can go into Canva and you can type in resume template and hit enter. And what you'll see load up on your screen shortly is a whole portfolio, a whole suite, a whole list of absolutely beautiful resume templates. So I'll slowly scroll down the screen here because it's kind of an unending list here. And as you'll see, these resume templates have been graphically designed really well. Some are really out there with a lot of bold colors and photos and icons. Some are still quite minimalist, but they just look a little bit more classy. So the page just keeps going and going and going. So what you can do with Canva that is absolutely fantastic is you can come and you can use any of these templates to recreate your own resume. So let's just pick one for argument's sake that we really, really like. Let's go with, well, which one should I choose today? I might go with this one here. So if we like this one here, Noah Shoemaker, we just simply click on it and it opens it up. I'll zoom in a little bit if it doesn't load quite well. And then what Canva allows you to do is we can simply edit. So we can put our own details here. So I put my name in. I'm obviously not a photographer, or I might put recruiter, for example. I'm obviously not going to have that photo that's there. I've got some uploaded photos here. Where's a photo of me? I've got a headshot. There we go. I'll put my own photo in there. I'll enter, and then I'll go through and change all of the details. We're not going to leave anyone else's skills in here, but I'll put my skills, my profile, my work experience. And so when I'm done, my resume is going to really look different to a lot of other job seekers, or your resume is. To then export it, I go to this button up here and I can download. I can choose to do it as a PDF or as an image. So one thing you need to be aware of with Canva is you can't download in Microsoft Word. Some advertisements will ask you to download in Microsoft Word. You can't, but if it's a PDF, you can. So Canva, canva.com. Go in there, play around. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go and have a pink and purple resume. Again, at the end of the day, your resume is your own personal brand. You need to decide and have a resume that you're comfortable with. You might just want black words on white paper. I'm not talking it down, but it is okay. I want you to know it is actually okay to make your resume visually appealing. So that's our third step there. It's okay to make it visually appealing. Fourth step, we've already talked about this a couple of times today. We've already talked about this several times. It came up as the first question of the day. Yes, you need to change your resume for every application. No, you don't need to rechange the whole resume for every application. It might just be the first dot point of your responsibilities. Look at the job ad. Read what they are asking for. If they say, we are looking for someone with MYOB accounting software, if you have MYOB accounting software, list that as your first dot point. If they list it as their first dot point, you list it as your first dot point. Normally listing things on a job ad in the order of importance. Tailor your resume for every application. All right, I'm going to go through some common questions. If you've got any resume questions, feel free to throw them in the comments box now. In the meantime, I'm going to answer these ones because these are the ones that come up most commonly. How long should my resume be? Well, really good question. The answer is it's up to you. I would say no longer than 4 pages. 4 pages is the absolute maximum that I would recommend. My personal preference is probably more around 2. A really good first page and a little bit of information on the second. But if you want to do 1, go for it. If you want to do 3 or 4, go for it. The really important thing here is we don't forget the 7-second rule, which means that if our front page, people aren't turning the pages in the 7 seconds. So if our front page is not good, doesn't matter what's on page 2, 3, and beyond. So my personal preference is a 2-pager, but I've got nothing against a 1, 3, or 4. Should I include a photo on my resume? I'd like to ask you the question. Do you think you should include a photo of yourself on your resume? I'm going to answer this by asking you a question. If you put a photo of yourself on your resume, do you think it helps to sell you? Do you think your photo will help to sell you? Now, there are a couple of rules if you are going to have a photo. It needs to be a professional photo. It needs to be a corporate headshot, a bit like that one I had before on LinkedIn, wearing, business attire, smiling at the camera, professional background. It's not a wedding photo. It's not a holiday photo. It's not a party photo. It's not a photo with your loved one or your children or your dog. It is a professional corporate headshot. If you put a photo on your resume, you need to be aware that you are going to be judged on your appearance. Even the most experienced recruiters have what is called unconscious bias. When I see a photo of you, I can't help but think certain things. When you see a photo of me, you make certain assumptions as well. So you're going to be judged. But if you think, hey, I've got a really well presented photo, I look very smart, I look intelligent, I'm smiling at the camera, I think it adds to my photo, I think it's going to help to sell me, go for it. Absolutely, go and do it. However, if you think, no, I'm not comfortable with having a photo on my resume, don't worry about it. People get really hung up on this and it doesn't make a huge difference. Question 3, should I include references or academic transcripts? Only if you've been asked for. So don't attach your references, don't attach written references to your resume, don't attach academic transcripts unless you've applied for a job and they've asked for that. Sometimes, particularly with graduate positions, they might ask for you to attach your academic transcript. In that case, you can certainly do it. However, unless it's been asked for, no. With references, one thing that I don't mind seeing, though, is the referee's contact details. You could list them at the very end of your resume. And what that actually suggests to me is that you're confident in getting a good reference. So you might say, here's my references. It's John Smith, manager of this company. That to me makes me think, okay, this candidate knows they're getting a good reference, but don't include the reference. And question 4 here, do I include every job I've worked in? My answer is not really. I don't think you need to go more than 10 years on your resume in great detail. So the jobs you've had, say, in 2005 or 6 are not really relevant to the job you're going to be going for in 2021. So I'd really focus on your last 2 or 3 jobs or your last 10 years. And then you might have on your resume jobs prior to 2010. And you could just simply list the job, the company, and the years. So if you worked in customer service at David Jones from 2004 to 8, that's kind of what you'd list in a dot point. David Jones, customer service representative, 2004 to 2008. Alrighty. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a great resume is important, but you also need to have a great cover letter. So back here on Thursday, same time, same place, 48 hours from now, well, 47 hours and 18 minutes, we're going to run a session on how to write a knockout cover letter. I've got a great formula for you, which is easily copyable. So be back here next on this Thursday. And then next week, Tuesday, same day, but an hour earlier, we're running the first of our 2-part workshops on interview preparation. And then on Thursday, we're concluding that. And the following week, we're running our masterclass. We normally do 8 workshops every month, but it's Christmas and I'm taking some time off. So we're running 5 this month. We'd love to have your participation in them. If you would like to ask a question, now's the time. If you've got any other questions, we've got one that's just come through. I'm a recent IT graduate and worked as a cleaner while I was studying. How will the recruiter look at my profile if I add cleaning experience? I think cleaning is absolutely wonderful experience to have on your resume because it's hard work. When you are studying, you are often working. So if you're a recent IT graduate, we want to highlight that at the top of your resume under education. Put your qualification, put your degree, your IT degree. Because you're a recent graduate as well, if you had high distinctions or you had any achievements while studying, list them under your degree because they're very recent. They're going to be very relevant. And I will then simply list your employment history. If you have been a cleaner, I would list that you've been a cleaner. I would list what your duties were and then maybe achievements. So if you're a cleaner, let me ask you this. Were you asked to take extra shifts? Were you given extra responsibilities? Did you receive any customer satisfaction reports? Think about things that show that you're proud of the work you do. You should be very proud of the fact that you worked as a cleaner. Don't be ashamed of it. It's an honorable job and you worked while you were studying. So this is where mindset comes into it. You need to be proud of your resume, proud of the fact that you're an IT graduate, proud of the fact that you worked hard as a cleaner, and let that come through on your resume. Good luck to those of you who that applies to. So a summary of today: sell your skills, experience, and your achievements. Make your resume easy to read. Don't overcook it. It should be visually appealing, and it's okay to be bold. And your resume needs to be tailored or must be tailored for every single role. If you've got any other questions, please type them in now. While you're doing that, if you're still wanting more assistance, a reminder of what's available on our candidate coaching platform. We've got video coaching episodes, resume and cover letter templates. We have interview questions. You've got online assessments you can take, checklists, articles, advice for executives, mental health support. We advertise all of our upcoming workshops, and it's all there for you for free. So get around it and make the absolute most of it. But before you do go today, there's a couple of things I'd love for you to do. First of all, there's a 2-minute survey. I'm going to drop these links into the comments box as I'm chatting. I would love for you to please complete this 2-minute survey for me. That really helps to give me some feedback on what it is that you enjoyed about today's workshop, and it helps me understand where we can be focusing. So if you can, please click on that link and take that 2-minute survey before you leave today. That would be absolutely fantastic. And also make sure you're following us on our LinkedIn page. We advertise, again, all of our upcoming events and bits and pieces. So please do follow us on our LinkedIn page to keep in touch, share our content, comment on our content, and go from there. But finally, we'll finish today with this video. As I mentioned before, when you're looking for work, it can be normal for your mental health to slide a little bit. So with this video, I'd really encourage you to hang around and watch it. This is the conclusion of today's workshop. Thanks very much for attending. And I really hope to see you back here on Thursday, where I'll show you an easy way to create a knockout cover letter. Bye-bye for now.
Terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job. Well, there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.